calls me from out of the pit.
Welcome to another episode of It Came from Saturday Night. I'm Paul.
I'm Mark.
And I'm Mike.
I'm Glenn.
And this is It Came from Saturday Night. Tonight's movie was barely a movie. Terror, what was it?
Island of Terror.
That's how bad it was.
Attention, please. I'm Dr. West, and this is Dr. Stanley. Now, we've completed going over Dr. Phillips's notes, and I must warn you that we're faced with a very dangerous situation. Dr. Stanley?
A remote island destined for total destruction.
Listen, if you think there's something running loose on this island, you can't leave me alone.
Tony, this could be very...
Don't leave me alone.
I'm not very keen on going down in their saddle again.
Out of an experiment on life came a devastating death.
You look safe.
Science creates. Can science destroy?
Now, this is very difficult to explain, but there are some creatures loose on this island, and they're dangerous.
What do you mean, creatures?
I wish I could tell you more, but we just don't know exactly what they are. Come on, let's get out of here. Listen to me! They're inactive now because they defied it, but we don't know for how long, and we can't stay here, so come on!
Oh, David, I'm so frightened.
So am I!
Fiction or fact, this could really happen.
Are you all right?
No!
There's one out here. In the car, quick!
Can this horror be destroyed?
David, do you really think we're going to get out of this?
Well, I think we stand a good chance, a very good chance, yes.
But you don't really believe that, do you?
Not 100% no, but I'd like to believe it.
Can these terrified people be saved from certain death? Fire, bullets, bombs could not penetrate its impregnable shell, but something did. What? See Island of Terror at this theater soon.
Well, if you watched our first episode, you know, one of the things we do on It Came from Saturday Night is talk about the movies we watch on Saturday night, particularly movies that are on Svengoolie on MeTV. And tonight was Island of Terror, which was barely a movie. I like to call it Day of the Tribbles, but worse.
It was, considering the fact that, spoiler alert, considering the fact that the finale is them watching through binocular.
Yeah.
at the
That
action.
That was like, what?
Maybe 20
30
feet away.
The other side of the parking lot, the cows are being eaten by the tentacle phlegm monsters, and they're all like,
The single.
"Oh God, look, it's terrible."
The single tentacle.
Well, and
Shit.
the fact that Peter Cushing walks among them like nothing, you know.
Yeah.
Look how slow they are. They're a very slow movie.
Yeah.
Well, because then your main your introductory actor died halfway through,
Right.
and then your main actor then gets incapacitated two-way third, so you're left with the startling personalities of
Mhm.
of the two tallest people and one secondary guy with a gun who's yelling at the people for not to panic.
The,
It's time to panic.
Was the Irish version of Paul Sorvino.
Yes, the Irish.
Right.
Yes,
The
yes,
Irish Paul Sorvino.
yes.
I think this was a Quatermass movie that didn't quite, make it, so they reshuffled it and sold it to a different company. Because the Quatermass movies were thinking man science fiction, which basically meant cheap. Everything like the binocular scene, everything happens off camera. You
Mhm.
barely see the monsters, but at least those are compelling. This one was about as compelling as I don't normally pick on movies for like stuff like this because we're trying to be positive about
Correct.
it, but the benefit is the riffs. If you're like us and you watch it in a group, and I know a lot of people do, watch Svengoolie in groups. There's no shortage. This is a great movie to riff on,
Mhm.
and we did quite a bit of that.
Yeah.
So it has that. So people who complain about he just showed the movie like 2 weeks ago, then riff on it and wait for his bits.
Right. That's what we did.
Yeah.
I mean, basically did our own version of
Mr. Science.
Mystery
Science
Science
Theater.
Theater to it. Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Clipped British accent.
That's that. Was it Peter Cushing and David Niven got together and had contest?
I have to agree with Glenn, though. I think that the majority of the budget was spent on the costumes because those people had changes of clothes
Yeah.
every scene for
Every-
being on an island, as you said, for being on an island.
They packed
Yes,
for what? Maybe like a couple days.
6-month
and
trip.
He must have had like at least 8 sweaters
Yes,
and vests and shirts.
Their primary sponsor was probably like a very famous clothier.
correct. Yes,
And he went outside and said, "You know what? I need a shirt that matches this background.
yeah, yes.
That's right.
Because I don't want to be clashing. I don't want to go off a red shirt. I want something to match the
Mhm.
environment and
Mhm.
everything."
Right. Okay.
And
So what did we dig up about the movie? Anything interesting?
It was also called Night of the Silicates, which was the original screenplay,
Hmm.
which were this is what the name they dubbed the monster as they
Mhm.
consumed silicates, i.e., bones.
Yeah, because they just kind of said, or you could call them a silicate.
Yes.
It's like that's pretty specifically random.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, and then to me though, the word silicate reminds me of sand. So couldn't they just have eaten beach and not killed people?
Well, I thought that's what they were going for because it looked like he found a dead one on the beach, which immediately made me remember one of my favorite movies. Have you guys ever seen Grabbers?
No.
Yes.
Oh Lord, it's this great movie where it's this little island in like off Ireland somewhere, and this like tentacle aliens land, and they find out that they're stranded on this island, and they find out that the only thing that destroys them is alcohol, so they have to get as drunk as possible to survive the night.
Mm.
It's great. That's
That
what
was
this kind of
funny.
reminded me of was like Grabbers, but not nearly as entertaining.
Well, and I kept thinking, and all of you had to point out, it reminded me of Night of the Shrews because I kept
Mhm.
thinking that's what this movie was. Like, where are they going to get in their like tin cans and crawl out of here?
Sure.
No, that's Night of the Shrews. Oh, but it's the same thing. Experiment goes wrong on an island. Bunch of people are trapped. Got to escape.
Hmm.
It just kind of felt,
Well, you're like, is this the one where they flip the cans upside down?
Yeah.
That's Taming of the Shrew.
Taming of the Shrew.
They're like,
Taming of the Shrew.
That's Taming of the Shrew.
Yeah, there's a little
Yes.
difference in that one.
Yes.
Maybe a little.
There was a musical version of it as well. No,
The moonlighting version of that one too.
yes,
Yeah.
but it was pretty awful, god awful.
I mean, it was saved, of course, by the always awesome, Peter Cushing. But again,
Well,
He seemed quite young and dapper in this.
Yeah.
He seemed quite
until he lost his hand.
yes, yes, yes.
well, and he lost all his. He was like Samson. He lost his hair. Once he lost his hand, he had no role to contribute to
Yeah.
this.
I think it would have been more interesting for
Yeah.
him not to lose his hand, but to have chopped the creature off of him, and then he would have had a boneless hand. He would have been like, "Oh, come there!" He could have waved the hand across the movie. Look over there! There they are crawling towards us ever so slowly.
Yes.
But then all of a sudden, when they attacked, once they got to the roof, they jumped through, and
Well,
it was off. It was like they were slow. Well, that's true. That's true. But they were.
It's going to take them to get on that roof. If it takes them like half an hour to get across the field,
Yes.
how long did it take them to climb the roof?
Well, the doctor was trying to make a new version of escargot, so they were snails originally.
Yeah. And I'm always impressed at how well they managed to catch the monsters as they fall.
Correct.
Yeah, because you don't want the prop to break. when
Right.
they land.
Yeah, you want to take out your sternum.
You know how much
first.
money we put in this
Yeah.
this movie and everything?
It's the only one we've got.
Save that one.
It cost them dozens of pounds to make
Yes.
this. film.
So save it and everything.
Yeah, it just a lot of odd choices in this movie. And
Yeah.
so last time we did a show, we the odd choices were interesting, not so much this time.
Mm-mm.
This I mean even the sets were weird. So when they go downstairs where the
Yeah,
radioactive is, I mean it looks like Frankenstein's castle. It looks like they reused a hammer,
yeah.
one of the hammer castles.
Yeah.
It's just odd.
In the submarine or
Yes, yeah. It just
Like, okay, so they got this big heavy door that holds in the radiation. Meanwhile, the what are the walls made out of? And is the walls thick enough to hold?
yeah.
You know, and then let's not forget too that amidst all this ridiculous kind of just silly movie, like there's always that part at the end where they give like the moral message about radiation and
Mhm.
stuff, and it's like, well, that was kind of heavy-handed. You know, it was implied in the movie.
Well, and it was
Yeah.
odd that they had to defend science. Well, even though it's a risk and many people died, the growth of science and progress is still okay.
Yes, then they
Yes.
cut to Japan where
Right.
horrible things happened and just 20 years earlier.
Hmm.
Right.
yeah, that seemed kind of like sorry we did this to you
Right.
and everything. We feel bad.
It would have been better had the Japanese scientists like opened up the door and he creaks it open and you're like, or whatever noise the smog monster makes.
Hmm. Or one of the creatures could have gotten giant size and fought Godzilla. That would have been interesting.
Yeah, I would.
Huh.
Eating Godzilla's bones, and
Maybe
then they couldn't have put his bones on the ocean floor and resurrected him later.
See, that
But-
could have been a sequel.
Could have been a
had it
sequel,
done.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
All they have to do is take the Godzilla suit off. and
Yeah.
put it on the ground.
Right.
It's 19. Yeah.
So
See, man, how much money they would have saved doing that. Yeah.
yeah,
How much money did they spend to have that helicopter
Yeah.
in those 3-4 scenes and everything? Because you have to have a
Yeah.
pilot and everything else.
right.
Well, and I would assume the year that this was made, helicopters, because even in like the early James Bond movies, helicopters were like a big deal. Like,
Yeah.
wow,
Mhm.
look, he's in a helicopter.
Our
So,
movie has a helicopter.
yeah, so yeah, that's where all the helicopter full of clothes.
The helicopter they
Mhm.
The helicopter
the
flew in-
helicopter they could not call
Yes.
to evacuate from the slow moving amoeba
Correct.
creatures and everything.
Right.
I think the helicopter brought in the costume designer. It was his or her helicopter.
He flies around from set to
Yes.
set.
Oh, we definitely need a sartorial green here for this.
Yeah. The monsters are 3 miles over there.
Yes.
They're moving at 1 mile an hour, and our
Mhm.
helicopter is he can't make it till no, that's just terrible shit. We'll just have to wait at his castle for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, just not suspenseful.
No, it's a good movie to riff on. It's a good movie to watch with friends because, you know, it just makes it more fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I was sitting home watching it, like, unsvend, I don't think I could make it through it.
But I think maybe what throws your expectations off is the fact that all right, granted, it's basically a B movie. It's a B sci-fi movie, but because it's British, you expect it to be more.
Yeah, what do you mean,
Yeah.
B movie?
Well, B for British. No.
Oh, okay. That's what that means. Okay.
Yes, but it just yeah, it was kind of their version of a sci-fi, 50s
Yeah.
sci-fi.
I'm doing the "What do you mean" jokes
Yes.
a little bit because this movie could have been half the length if people would have listened. Because every time somebody says something, somebody else goes, "What do you mean,
Yeah.
strontium 90?"
Yeah. What do you mean? No bones. No bones? No bones.
You don't have to assemble in the auditorium for the
Yes.
children's play.
What do you mean it's a helicopter?
What do you mean helicopter?
Yeah.
It was literally like that for about 10 minutes.
Mhm.
Well, let's not forget the amazing scene of watching them put on their radiation.
Oh yeah.
Oh, right.
Yes,
Radiation
they're
condoms.
full body
Their
condoms.
full condoms
yes.
with their tie and sweater
Yeah.
and fur
Mhm.
coat and everything
And as
on.
Paul pointed out, with the little
With a little reservoir.
reservoir. at the
Yeah.
top,
with
yes.
the condom.
And those radiation suits were so thin; they were like Halloween costumes.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like, how could that? I mean, aren't radiation suits
One would think, like,
usually?
who knew just like latex would
Yeah.
prevent,
Mhm.
Yeah.
radiation. It slayed me that there was like a solid like 2 minutes of watching these two old doddering men put on these radiation suits, and it's just like, why? Why are you
Yeah.
padding the film with this?
Mhm.
Pad it with something else, and then of
Then you
course,
cut to
Yes.
they're off.
Or even just
immediately taking them off. They realized this is when they were making the movie, they're like, no.
No.
We're gonna keep that in, but we're not doing that again. So
Right.
that's too much.
Again, I think the costume designer was paid a lot of money.
Mm,
Wanted a whole scene showing a costume change. I think yes.
yeah.
Now the one dark aspect of the movie that I enjoyed was towards the end when when the town hall is being beset by these one tentacled snot monsters, and the of course the woman is being a woman, and back then of course they were always hostile, and
And so,
he was the guy was gonna spare her the pain of dying by basically putting her to sleep, but that was like darkly out of place,
Mm-hmm.
in a movie like that. It's like, why couldn't so you had one really heavy scene in amidst this ridiculousness.
Hmm.
So I make
Either that or at the time they thought the whole thing was heavy. I don't, to them, they were making a serious statement movie, but
yeah.
Mm.
Little did they know. All right, so I think we've touted this movie enough.
Well, what about the Sven bits?
Yes, we'll get to the as Mike pointed out, we'll get to the Sven bits. Impressions, ideas, thoughts. Anybody? I forgot to drink your face.
oh yes. Let me think. Here, that's a good time to think about your question.
What do you mean? Think about the question.
Yes. What do you mean bits? Yes. What do you mean Sven? Clearly a very, 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 very early Sven episode, given that the clips were
Yeah.
Mhm.
in different aspect ratio,
Yeah.
had the different sets. So, but yeah, so that was, but at least again, as though people complain, there were at least 2 new bits. So the male segment, he seems to change the male segment now every single time.
Yeah.
So you always get at least a new male segment. And then a new Sven squad at
Mhm.
least. So, but people's thoughts on the Sven squad this week? Was Gwen Gooley?
Was she hot enough for everybody?
Shit, yeah.
I didn't really pay attention because she's so hot.
God.
So I'm sure it was good. She's hot.
That poor girl. The thing is about movies like this. Now we know we none of us remembered this movie, the Night of the Triffids,
Mm.
the Island of Terror. And none of us really remembered this episode of Sven. I know Mike and I at least sort of watched it one time a while back when he ran it, apparently. But and even though the Sven stuff was obviously older because of the aspect ratio and the sets, and he looks a lot younger. The thing is that a lot of people in the groups don't understand, and a lot of the newer fans don't understand, is every episode is probably somebody's first episode.
Correct.
And, maybe you have seen this before, but a lot of people haven't. because a lot of people I've noticed are just now in a lot of the groups. The people that join the groups, they're like they just discovered what Svengoolie even was.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
you got to kind of cut them a little bit of slack. But
Well, that and the earlier bits, he
Mhm.
did a lot more funny commercials, and so
Yeah.
those were always
Yeah.
some of my favorites.
Yeah.
All the way back to Vampire Carpets.
Vampire Carpets, Transfusion Punch.
Yeah.
That was one with Donnie and Marie Osmond. The Transfusion Punch commercial.
So so he did do that with the soup commercial, and
Mm-hmm.
so that was great. That was
Yeah.
hilarious.
Now, when did MeTV go
And-
nationwide?
Well, it said it in this episode. It must have whenever that was filmed, or one of the bits was filmed. He said, "Now that I'm, nationwide on MeTV."
Yeah.
So
If anybody out there watching knows, put it in the comments when MeTV went
That
nationwide.
also make decisions on when stuff was
Yeah,
done.
Right.
Like, oh look, I got a budget.
yeah. You got a budget. You got certain, like we talked about last episode. There's certain movies you can get, but you have to show them X amount of times per
Right.
year.
right.
So watch something else or just
Well, and I don't
enjoy it.
think I wouldn't want Rich to have to just refilm everything. So, well, because now it's 10 years later, I want to do the soup commercial again. So now I'll just film it with the way I look now.
Mhm.
Just it doesn't make any sense to
Yeah.
me like that. You wouldn't,
Well,
why would you reshoot?
what was the Too Rough for TV? What was
Oh
that?
yeah,
That was hilarious.
the Too Rough kind, which probably came with those
Yeah.
all those weird videos
Yeah.
of the 90s, I would say.
that they used to run. They'd run like late night,
Mhm.
too hot for TV.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that
he was.
funny.
I do remember being young, and when he came on, like what 1-2 o'clock on Saturday afternoon.
Mhm.
Or nobody cared. That was when our parents didn't care about us, our baby boom parents didn't care what we were watching on in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Right.
Except when Doctor Who came on, they never said it was on 4 o'clock. So they went, no, you can't watch that on a weekday. We have to put that on 11 o'clock at night. We don't want
Yeah.
to see those.
Well, the Doctor Who 4 o'clock time slot gets in the way of dinner,
Yeah.
Mhm.
so nothing gets in the way. And back then we didn't have TVs in our kitchen. But
Yeah.
we're getting a little off track. Let's let's bring it back down to Sven. I thought again they had the new Sven Squad moments were obviously newer because one, aspect ratio changed. Two, Gwen Gooley's making a joke about going to the island with Petrie Island
Mhm.
where the baby pterodactyls live, or what's the other one? Oh, Petrie was you got to explain the joke. Petrie was the little pterodactyl in Land Before Time.
Oh. Yeah, I thought the Gwen Gooley was funny. They did some the classic song bit was good. The song was good.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I enjoyed those aspects of it. And the movie was long enough that there wasn't it did go by rather fast, I guess, or at least it filled most of the time slots. So the bits were weren't as lengthy. They didn't have shoulder stuff.
Yeah. There was no Pinky in the Brain
No.
on the road, which is always.
Yeah. I mean, we did get the conversion of the set,
Right.
the Sven
Yeah.
set. But I like watching that every
Yeah.
time. And I don't remember the last time they did it. They focused a lot on the coffin, and so it was interesting to see the chronometer being made and the what they call it, the Klux
The
capacitor,
capacitor, yeah.
capacitor being built. So that was neat. I hadn't seen that before.
Yeah.
So, and it must cycle too, because we were talking last time about all the new commercials. This time it was the classic classic commercials on MeTV.
Yeah.
Pretty much nothing new. So speaking of Sven Squad, so not even though there is a Sven Squad, the three, then they also did the people just doing their own videos.
Yeah.
Which, just depends on quality is all over the place.
We should do one.
Yeah, we could. If we have to watch those, I'd rather watch them in full because some of them got so little bit of time, you couldn't even figure out what their bit was. And so I'd rather just, instead of running like 6 of them, do 3 and let's get their whole, bit. Unless that's all they could, manage to
Yeah.
salvage from what was
And
10.
the editors are watching.
Yeah, yeah.
The 2 minutes he sent us,
Yeah.
let's do these 13 seconds.
Yeah, that's very true. That's true.
The editors they get the phone call and it's like, yeah, we need a Sven Squad moment. You guys got to go through the videos, and the 2 editors are like,
Right. Yeah.
I gotta do it this time.
But one of the videos I did like, and I think it goes back to your point, is for for all of us, there's somebody new watching it. The little kid who did Sven Squad.
Yeah.
So there are kids,
Yeah.
3rd, 4th generation, watching Sven,
And that kid's seeing himself on there. He's a lifer now.
correct. But and he hasn't seen the movie probably 100 times.
Right.
He hasn't seen
Right.
these bits.
Mhm.
And so again, it's for those fans as well.
Yeah.
So, so I like the mix. I don't, I know I'm at least gonna get a new male segment and a new Sven Squad, and so that's cool. So it's never a complete rerun,
Right.
no matter what he's doing.
Okay, so I think we can probably wrap this up.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, since we got Glenn with us, last episode we posed the question, and we can all answer it again. But what's a movie you'd want to see on Svengoolie?
Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Oh, okay. All right. For me, get one of the Quatermass movies.
Mhm.
They're fun. Like Quatermass and the Pit. Great movie.
Yeah. More Hammer. I mean, I love Hammer movies.
Yeah, you can never have enough ham.
Yeah. And so maybe, or well, I don't know if you could show it. What's the zombie?
Light.
What's the zombie motorcycle movie? Psycho.
Oh, Psychomania.
Psychomania.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if you. I
That
don't know.
movie's great.
Although I remember watching that movie as a kid on like Channel 44, so it's been on broadcast before.
Yeah.
I don't know how heavily edited, but
Right.
yeah, Psychomania. Let's get Psychomania.
Mm.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then we could show werewolves on wheels.
I'm
I'd be down
already
with that. I would
I'm
be down with
already
that.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Psychomania. I love the idea that when you are so full of ennui that you want to die, you make a pact with the devil to live forever. That makes 100% sense to me. Well, next week time of recording. Next week they're doing the Wolfman. We'll probably do a review of that, even though we've all seen it so many times. We could probably put on a play version of it. I don't know. But this has been It Came from Saturday Night. I'm Paul.
I'm Mark.
I'm Mike.
I'm Glenn.
And thanks for watching.
Toodaloo.
There are 2 ways to shop for carpeting. You can get dressed and go out and brave the traffic or the yell of the bus and find a showroom and wait for a salesman and try to remember the size of your rooms and the exact colors you want to match and put in your order and fight your way back home and wait days or weeks or months for your carpet to be delivered and installed. Or you can just pick up the phone and call Empire.
588-2300 Empire.